The film opens in Tokyo, where the authorities are in pursuit of a fugitive named Yasuke Hibisawa. In an attempt to evade capture, Yasuke takes an innocent girl as a hostage and threatens her life. However, he suddenly experiences severe chest pains and collapses, resulting in his demise. The following scene shows the Deputy Director of Foreign Affairs walking out of his office, only to find himself surrounded by the media. The reporters start to bombard him with several allegations and questions, but before he can respond, he collapses and passes away, mirroring Yasuke's fate. Similarly, a sequence of unexplained deaths unfold in the city, all involving criminals. As the frequency of these deaths escalate, certain religious groups interpret them as the divine retribution of God against wrongdoers. Meanwhile, the public is divided regarding the cause of these deaths, with many attributing them to an individual known as Kira, which is the Japanese translation of the word killer, and is both beloved and feared by the worldwide media and public. One evening, a breaking news broadcast captures the attention of the crowd, and the reporter announces that a man named Hirochimi Inizumi has broken into a financial company and is currently holding people hostage. Amidst the crowd, there is a strange young man who, upon hearing the news, retrieves his notebook and writes Hirochimi's name in it. Moments later, the reporter astonishingly announces that Hirochimi has passed away, and some of the hostages claim that he collapsed after experiencing sudden chest pain. Following this, the movie cuts back a few weeks earlier to the strange man from before named Light Yagami, and he's an intelligent and distinguished yet disaffected Tokyo college student. He hacks into the Japanese police website and learns that all the cases of the wanted criminals are being closed. To confirm his suspicions, he goes to a local bar where he overhears one of the criminals admitting that the police have released him and no one can incarcerate him now. Hearing this, Light becomes distraught and he starts losing faith in the nation's legal system, and on a rainy night within the Kanto region of Japan, Light stumbles upon a mysterious dark-colored notebook with the words Death Note marked on the cover. The Death Note's instructions claim that if a person's name is written within while picturing the person's face, he or she will die. Light was initially skeptical of the Death Note's authenticity, but after experimenting with it on a convicted criminal, he realizes that it's real. After experimenting with it on his second victim, an acquitted felon named Tako Shibimaru, and meeting with the previous owner of the Death Note, a demonic Shinigami named Ryuk, Light begins to see the potential of the Death Note's godlike abilities, and eventually decides to use the notebook to kill those whom he deems to be morally unworthy of life or impede his plans to change the world. At the present time, the authorities were still investigating the mysterious deaths that have been occurring, but so far there were no leads on the so-called Law Lord Kira. Hence they turned to a mysterious figure known as only L for assistance. L communicates with the cops via a laptop and suspects that Kira is from Japan and is committing these crimes solo. And so he devises a plan. L, with permission from the police, uses a fugitive criminal to challenge Kira through a live broadcast. The plan succeeds, and when Light watches the broadcast, he becomes enraged at the criminal's insulting words. Hence, he promptly writes down his name in the Death Note, causing the criminal to perish instantly. Following this incident, the real voice of L appears on the live broadcast, and he elucidates that the entire scenario was a trap set to narrow down Kira. He reveals that the conference was broadcasted exclusively in Japan, and now the police know that Kira is from Japan. L also warns that once Kira is apprehended, he will be sentenced to death. Meanwhile, Light, who was watching from home, becomes terrified by the threats. However, he was powerless to intervene because L never shows his face to anyone. In the next scene, the police department designates one of their finest officers, Sachiko Higami, as the case's lead investigator, and ironically, he's revealed to be Light's father. With the assistance of L, the police continue their investigation, and they scrutinize the overall timings of the deaths, and discover that they corresponded to the timetable of a college. Consequently, they deduce that Kira is a college student who refrains from eliminating targets during classes. Light, who can easily hack into the police database, becomes aware of this information and begins to alter his killing time. When the police catch wind of this, they suspect that their information is somehow being leaked to Kira. Later, as Light was walking alongside his friend, Ryuk, he realizes that an unfamiliar individual was tailing him. Ryuk discloses that the same person has been tailing him for 2 days, and hearing this, Light is puzzled as to why Ryuk didn't alert him sooner, and the latter clarifies that he is neutral and he supports neither him nor the police. The statement unsettles Light, and he resolves to be more cautious from now on. One day, Light and his girlfriend Shaori board a bus and the unknown individual follows them, and enraged, Light confronts the individual, but the person feigns ignorance. A few moments later, a guy suddenly rises from his seat and takes the passengers hostage. It is revealed that he is an escaped criminal who had just broken out of prison. Light wanted to help, but since he doesn't know the criminal's name, he simply writes on a piece of paper that he is about to take action. When the unknown follower notices this, he tries to stop Light, warning him of the potential danger. He introduces himself as an FBI agent named Rie Iwamatsu, and their conversation is cut short as the criminal approaches them and snatches the piece of paper from Light, which happens to be a torn portion of the Death Note. As soon as the criminal grasps the paper, Ryuk becomes visible to him, and the sight of the intimidating monster causes the criminal to panic, prompting him to flee from the bus. Unfortunately, he is struck and killed by a fast-moving vehicle, and meanwhile it is revealed that the FBI agent Rie had been tailing Light because the entire police department suspects Sakiko of leaking information to his son. Now armed with Rai's identity and appearance, Light sets his sights on removing him from his path. However, Ryuk warns Light that he will become the prime suspect if he does so, and to dispel any suspicion toward himself, Light decides to compile the names of all the undercover FBI agents connected to the case. To achieve this, he summons Rie to the subway and communicates with him through a transmitter. Light blackmails Rie into inscribing the names of all the FBI agents on a piece of paper, threatening to harm innocent passengers on the train if he refuses. And with no other options, Rie complies. Subsequently, he accesses images of all the agents in his database and inscribes their name in the Death Note. As a result, all the FBI agents involved in the case meet their demise from chest pain, and Light cautiously ends Rie's life as well. Unfortunately, Rie's fiancée happens to be present on the same railway platform, witnessing his collapse, but her efforts to save him were in vain. Later, at the police station, Sachiko, Light's father, makes an announcement warning the team that their lives are in danger because Kira has begun targeting non-criminals. Consequently, he permits team members to withdraw from the case if they fear for their safety, and following this, everyone except 6 officers leave the room. The remaining 6 demand that L reveal his true identity before continuing the investigation. In the subsequent scene, they arrive at L's apartment and discover that he's just a young boy. However, his exceptional intelligence sets him apart from the rest of the officers, and L deduces that Kira can manipulate the causes of death, leading him to advise the team to use false names to evade Kira's target. Together, they embark on their mission to capture the murderer as swiftly as possible. Elsewhere, Rie's fiancée Naomi was devastated by his death. She was unveiled as a former FBI agent who previously collaborated with L. Now driven by vengeance, she's determined to unearth her fiancé's killer. Meanwhile, L comes across Rie's death video where he notices Rie pointing at someone just before his demise. Believing he has found the culprit, he informs Sachiko and the team, presenting them with photos of potential suspects, including Light. Consequently, he advocates for constant surveillance of Sachiko's family. On the other hand, Light meticulously schedules deaths a week in advance and instructs Ryuk that the mission must persist even in his absence. The following day, Naomi confronts Light with suspicion while he was at his college. Although he recognizes her from the railway platform, he denies any involvement in Rei's death. Nevertheless, Naomi remains suspicious, asserting that Light used the bus incident to uncover Rie's identity. Realizing that he has been exposed, Light attempts to eliminate Naomi by writing her name in the Death Note, but she reveals that he cannot kill her because she provided a false name. Before departing, she vows to pursue Kira relentlessly until his capture. Later that day, Light returns home and detects an unusual scent, suspecting that someone has infiltrated his room. He informs Ryuk that his room has been bugged with cameras and listening devices, and his suspicion is confirmed when L and the police are observed constantly monitoring him inside his room. After several days of surveillance yield no incriminating evidence, Sachiko becomes convinced of his son's innocence. However, L insists on continuing the surveillance due to the absence of any deaths while monitoring Light. On the 7th day, Light is seen dining with his family, and upon retiring to his room, he locks the door and unwraps a bag of chips. While feigning ignorance of the surveillance, he studies, and suddenly news emerges that a new criminal has been apprehended and subsequently perishes from a heart attack. Despite the agents declaring Light innocent, L still remains suspicious of him. Nevertheless, though, he orders his assistant to remove all the surveillance equipment from Light's room. Unbeknownst to them, Light has concealed the death note inside the bag of chips, covertly writing the criminal's name to exonerate himself, and one day Shaori calls Light and proposes they meet at an art gallery, to which he eagerly agrees. However, he detects something amiss in her voice during the call, and in reality, Naomi has taken Shaori hostage to lure Light to the meeting place. In the subsequent scene, upon arriving at the art gallery, Light finds Naomi holding Shaori captive. She angrily demands that he confesses to being Kira, but Light vehemently denies the allegations and pleads for Shaori's release. In a desperate bid to force a confession, Naomi discloses her real name and requests Light to end her life. Meanwhile, Elle and the team watch the unfolding drama through CCTV cameras, and shortly after, Naomi was distracted by the police sirens outside, allowing Shaori to break free and run toward Light. However, in her panicked state, she accidentally shoots the innocent girl, and Shaori succumbs to her injuries and dies in Light's hand, leaving him grief-stricken. Subsequently, the police arrive at the scene, but before they can apprehend Naomi, she offs herself immediately. Ryuk finds that Light had actually engineered Naomi's death using the Death Note, as he had already found out her identity and written a scenario whereby Naomi would off herself after shooting Shaori. Ryuk was confused that Light would deliberately put Shaori in danger, but Light reveals that he had written her name in the Death Note as well, much to his reluctance and remorse. Using these events to seemingly foster hatred for Kira, Light asked to join his father's task force, and while Sakicho was slightly reluctant, L immediately grants his wish and is hinted that he is still certain that Light is Kira, as he's holding the same bag of chips that Light used to inscribe the criminals' names. In the final scene of the movie, a woman was being chased down an alley by a man wielding a knife who was intent on killing her. As she screams for help, the man dies of a heart attack, just like Kira's victims, and a second Death Note lands beside her. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed our video. Watch our next recaps on the screen, and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing recaps. See you on the next one.